The clock on the wall showed 11:30 at night. Sophia wiped the sweat from her forehead as she finished mopping the last section of the marble floor. Her back ached and her hands were raw from scrubbing, but she couldn't complain. This job paid better than any other cleaning position in the city, even if it meant working until midnight most days. The penthouse belonged to Daniel Chen, one of the youngest and most successful CEOs in the country. Everyone knew his name. He owned a chain of luxury hotels and real estate companies that seemed to print money. But Sophia knew him as the man who barely looked at her when she served his coffee. To him she was invisible, just another person who kept his perfect life running smoothly. She gathered her cleaning supplies and headed toward the storage closet. The penthouse was massive, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city lights. Everything here cost more than Sophia would earn in a lifetime. The paintings on the walls, the furniture, even the doorknobs probably had price tags that would make her dizzy. As she walked past the music room, something made her stop. The door was slightly open, and through the gap she could see it. The grand piano. Black and gleaming under the soft lights, it sat there like a sleeping giant. Sophia's heart squeezed in her chest. She glanced around. Mr. Chen had left for a business dinner hours ago. The other staff had already gone home. She was completely alone. Sophia knew she shouldn't. She had strict instructions never to touch anything that wasn't part of her cleaning duties. But her feet moved on their own, carrying her into the music room. She set down her supplies and approached the piano like it was made of glass. Her fingers trembled as she lifted the fallboard, revealing the ivory keys. How long had it been? 3 years? 4? It felt like a lifetime since she'd sat at a piano, back when she was a different person living a different life. Sophia pulled out the bench and sat down. The leather was soft, expensive. She positioned her hands over the keys, and for a moment she just sat there remembering her mother's smile when she played, remembering the acceptance letter from the conservatory, remembering the dreams she'd buried when reality came crashing down. Then she pressed the first note. The sound filled the room, pure and clear. Sophia closed her eyes and let muscle memory take over. Her fingers found their way through a piece she'd been composing in her head for months. There was no sheet music, no plan, just emotion pouring out through her fingertips. The melody was sad and hopeful at the same time. It spoke of lost chances and quiet resilience, of scrubbing floors while dreaming of concert halls, of keeping promises to people who were no longer here to see them kept. Sophia didn't notice the tears running down her cheeks. She was somewhere else entirely, in a place where debt collectors didn't call and hospital bills didn't pile up, where her mother was still alive, still encouraging her to reach for the stars. The final notes hung in the air, slowly fading into silence. Then she heard it. A slight sound behind her, the creak of a floorboard. Sophia's eyes flew open. She spun around on the bench, her heart hammering against her ribs. Daniel Chen stood in the doorway. He wasn't supposed to be home. The dinner was supposed to last until 1 in the morning at least. But there he was, still in his expensive suit, his briefcase in one hand, and he was staring at her. Sophia jumped to her feet so fast the bench scraped against the floor. "Mr. Chen, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to, I shouldn't have—" The words tumbled out in a panic. She could already see herself being fired, having to find a new job, falling behind on payments again. But Daniel didn't look angry. He looked confused, maybe even surprised. He stepped into the room slowly, setting his briefcase down on a side table. "Where did you learn to play like that?" His voice was quiet, not demanding. Actually curious, Sophia's mind went blank. Of all the things she expected him to say, it wasn't that. I used to study music. A long time ago. Where?" She hesitated. This was dangerous territory. She was supposed to be just the maid. People like her weren't supposed to have backstories or dreams. "Anderson Conservatory. But I only completed 1 year." Something shifted in Daniel's expression. "Anderson doesn't accept just anyone." "That's one of the top music schools in the country." Sophia nodded, looking down at her worn shoes. They seemed so out of place on the pristine floor. "I had a scholarship, full tuition, but my mother got sick and someone had to take care of her. The medical bills were—" She trailed off. He didn't need to hear her sob story. Daniel was quiet for a long moment. Sophia could feel her career hanging by a thread. She'd crossed a line, touched something she shouldn't have, invaded his private space. That piece you were playing, Daniel said finally. I've never heard it before. I wrote it. The words came out before Sophia could stop them. I'm working on it. It's not finished. You composed that? Sophia nodded again, still not meeting his eyes. She heard him move closer. When she finally looked up, Daniel was standing right in front of her. His face was different somehow. Softer. Less like the cold businessman she served coffee to every morning. My mother was a pianist, he said quietly. She died when I was 12. My father removed every instrument from our house afterward. Said music was a distraction from building something that mattered. His jaw tightened. I haven't heard anyone play in person since then. Sophia didn't know what to say. This was the most personal thing Mr. Chen had ever shared with any of the staff. Play something else, he said. Mr. Chen, I really should get back to work. I didn't mean to. Please. The single word stopped her. There was something raw in his voice, something almost desperate. Sophia looked at him, really looked at him, and saw something she'd never noticed before. Behind the sharp suits and the commanding presence, there was a person who'd locked something away for so long he'd almost forgotten it existed. She sat back down at the piano. This time, when her fingers touched the keys, she wasn't alone. Daniel pulled up a chair and sat nearby, close enough to see her hands move but far enough to give her space. As Sophia played, she noticed something strange. For the first time since she'd started working here, she didn't feel invisible, and in the reflection of the piano's polished surface, she could see Daniel Chen, the untouchable CEO, with his eyes closed and something that looked almost like peace on his face. The next morning, Sophia arrived at the penthouse at 6 sharp, just like always. She'd barely slept, her mind replaying the previous night over and over. Part of her hoped Daniel would forget the whole thing happened. The other part, the part she tried to ignore, hoped he wouldn't. She was preparing his morning coffee when he walked into the kitchen. Sophia kept her eyes down, focusing on the espresso machine. Sophia. She looked up. Daniel was dressed for work, his tie perfectly straight, his expression unreadable. Here it comes, she thought. The polite dismissal, the severance check. I have a proposal for you, he said. Sophia's hand froze on the coffee cup. Sir? Keep your regular duties. Same schedule, same pay. But every evening from 8 to 10, I want you to play piano. He paused. For me. Sophia stared at him. I don't understand. Your music helps me think. I have a lot of decisions to make, a lot of pressure. When you play, everything becomes clearer somehow. He picked up the coffee she'd prepared. You'll be compensated for the extra time, of course. You want to pay me to play piano? I'm offering you a chance to do what you love while keeping the job you need. Unless you'd rather not. Sophia's mind raced. This was bizarre. CEOs didn't make deals with their cleaning staff, but the thought of touching that piano again, of playing every single day. I'll do it, she said quietly. Something that might have been relief crossed Daniel's face. Good. 8 o'clock tonight. That evening, Sophia found herself back in the music room. Daniel was already there, sitting at his desk with a laptop and a mountain of paperwork. He gestured toward the piano without looking up. Play whatever you want. Pretend I'm not here. Pretend he's not here, right? Sophia sat at the piano and began to play. She chose a simple Bach prelude, something safe and classical. But as her fingers warmed up, she drifted into something else, a melody that had been humming in her head all day. Daniel worked in silence, occasionally typing or making notes. But Sophia noticed his shoulders gradually relaxing, the tight line of his jaw softening. After exactly 2 hours, he looked up. That's time. Thank you, Sophia. She nodded and left the room, feeling oddly disappointed that he hadn't said anything else. This became their routine. Every evening at 8, Sophia would play while Daniel worked. He rarely spoke during these sessions, but slowly, things began to change. On the 4th night, he asked her about the piece she was playing. It's Chopin, Sophia said. Nocturne in E-flat major. My mother used to love this one. Daniel looked up from his papers. Tell me about her. Sophia hesitated. She wasn't used to people asking about her life. She was a piano teacher. Not famous or anything, just taught neighborhood kids. But she had this way of making everyone feel like they could be great if they just believed in themselves. She sounds like she was a good person. The best. Sophia's throat tightened. She never got to see me perform at Anderson. She died 2 weeks before my first recital there. Daniel was quiet for a moment. My mother used to play every evening. Same time like clockwork. My father would come home from work, and she'd be at the piano. I'd do my homework listening to her play. He smiled slightly, but it was sad. After she died, my father said music was a waste of time, that I needed to focus on real things, building a legacy, making money, being successful. Did it work? Sophia asked. Are you happy? No one had ever asked Daniel that question before. She could see it on his face. I don't know, he said finally. I stopped thinking about happiness a long time ago. After that night, they talked more. Daniel would ask about her compositions, and Sophia would explain the emotions behind each piece. He started requesting specific moods. Play something hopeful, he'd say, or, I need something that sounds like rain. Sophia began composing pieces specifically for these requests. She'd spend her afternoons during her break, writing music on staff paper she'd bought from a secondhand store. At night, she'd play these new compositions for Daniel, watching his face to see if she'd captured what he needed. 3 weeks into their arrangement, everything changed. Sophia arrived for the evening session to find Daniel on the phone. His voice was sharp, angry. I don't care what Vanessa wants. Tell her I'm busy. He hung up and rubbed his temples. Bad day? Sophia asked. My fiancé is upset that I'm spending so much time at home. He said it casually, but Sophia felt like someone had dumped ice water over her head. Fiancé. Of course he had a fiancé. Men like Daniel Chen didn't stay single. I didn't know you were engaged, Sophia managed to say. For 6 months now. Our families have been friends since we were children. It makes sense on paper. He pulled out a folder of documents. Play something that makes me forget about wedding planning. Sophia sat at the piano, but her hands felt heavy. She played, but the music came out mechanical, lifeless. She was being ridiculous. What did she expect? That late-night piano sessions meant something more than what they were. She was the help. He was engaged to someone from his world, Daniel noticed. What's wrong? You're playing the notes, but there's no feeling in them. I'm tired, Sophia lied. He stood up and walked over to the piano. Don't do that. Don't shut down on me. Your music is the only honest thing in my life right now. I'm just the maid who plays piano. Mr. Chen, I'm sure your fiancé would have opinions about how honest our arrangement is. Is that what you think? That you're just the maid? Daniel's voice was intense now. Sophia, you've changed everything. Before you played that night, I was going through motions. Building an empire I didn't care about. Marrying someone because it was expected. I haven't felt anything real in years. Then why are you still marrying her? Daniel looked away. Because that's what people like me do. We make deals. We build alliances. We don't throw away carefully laid plans because... Because what? Because someone made us remember what it feels like to be alive. The air in the room felt thick. Sophia stood up from the piano bench. I should go. This isn't appropriate. Sophia, wait. But she was already walking toward the door. She stopped at the threshold and turned back. You asked me if you were happy. Here's the truth. No, you're not, and neither am I. But at least I know what I'm sacrificing and why. Can you say the same? She left before he could answer. Sophia didn't sleep that night. She kept thinking about Daniel's words, about the look in his eyes. She'd crossed a line, said too much. Tomorrow she'd probably be fired. And maybe that was for the best. But when she arrived the next morning, there was an envelope waiting for her on the kitchen counter. Inside was a ticket to a charity gala being held at the Grand Plaza Hotel in 2 weeks, and a handwritten note. Please come. I need to show you something. Daniel. Sophia held the ticket in her shaking hands. She had no idea what she was walking into. But she knew one thing for certain. Everything was about to change. Sophia stood outside the Grand Plaza Hotel, clutching her small purse like a lifeline. The building towered above her, all glass and gold lighting. Luxury cars pulled up one after another, releasing women in designer gowns and men in tailored tuxedos. She looked down at her own dress. It was the nicest thing she owned. A simple navy blue dress she'd worn to her mother's funeral, but next to these people she felt like a sparrow among peacocks. Maybe this was a mistake. Maybe she should just go home. Sophia. She turned to see Daniel's assistant Raymond hurrying toward her. Mr. Chen asked me to watch for you. Come on, you're needed inside. Needed? Raymond, what's going on? But he was already guiding her through a side entrance away from the main crowd. They went through hallways Sophia recognized from when she'd worked catering jobs at this hotel years ago. The staff corridors where people like her belonged. Raymond stopped at a door marked staff only. There's been a situation. The pianist hired for tonight's performance just called. Food poisoning. Can't make it. Sophia's stomach dropped. Why are you telling me this? Because Mr. Chen wants you to perform. What? No, absolutely not. Raymond, I can't. Sophia. Raymond's voice was gentle. He said you'd refuse. He told me to tell you that he's never asked you for anything before, not really. But he's asking now. Sophia's hands started shaking. There are hundreds of people out there. Important people. I'm not ready for something like this. Mr. Chen seems to think you are. Raymond checked his watch. The performance is supposed to start in 20 minutes. I'll show you to the stage entrance. Whatever you decide, it's your choice. Sophia followed him in a daze. They reached the wings of the ballroom stage, hidden behind heavy curtains. Through a gap, Sophia could see the crowd. Round tables covered in white linens, crystal glasses catching the light from massive chandeliers. People who probably spent more on their watches than Sophia made in a year. And there at the front table sat Daniel. Next to him was a woman who could only be Vanessa. Tall, elegant, with the kind of beauty that looked effortless but probably cost a fortune to maintain. Her hand rested possessively on Daniel's arm. Sophia's chest tightened. What was she doing here? This wasn't her world. These weren't her people. A man in a headset approached her. Are you the replacement pianist? We need to know right now. The program is already delayed. Sophia opened her mouth, but no words came out. Then she saw Daniel turn his head, scanning the room. He was looking for her. Even with Vanessa right beside him, he was looking for her. Yes, Sophia heard herself say. I'm the pianist. The man with the headset looked relieved. Thank God. Okay, in 15 minutes, the MC will introduce you. We need a name for the program. Sophia Reyes. Great. What will you be playing? Sophia thought about the piece she'd been composing, the one she played for Daniel on difficult nights. An original composition. It's called Finding Home. The next 15 minutes passed in a blur. Sophia stood in the wings, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might burst out of her chest. She could hear the MC talking, thanking donors, making jokes that the crowd laughed at. Then, and now for a special performance, please welcome pianist Sophia Reyes. The curtains parted. Spotlight hit her face. Sophia walked onto the stage, blinded by the lights, deaf to everything except the sound of her own breathing. She heard the whispers start immediately, saw people leaning toward each other, confused. She knew what they were seeing. A woman in a cheap dress walking toward a piano worth more than her entire life. Sophia sat at the bench. Her hands were trembling so badly she had to press them against her lap. She looked out at the audience and found Daniel. He was leaning forward, his entire attention focused on her, and he nodded just once, like he was saying, "You can do this." Sophia placed her hands on the keys, and she began to play. The first notes were soft, uncertain, like a question being asked. But as the melody developed, it grew stronger, more confident. The piece told a story without words. It spoke of struggle and resilience, of dreams that got buried but never quite died, of finding beauty in unexpected places. Sophia forgot about the audience, forgot about her cheap dress and her worn shoes. She was back in that penthouse music room, playing for an audience of one, playing for herself, playing because this was who she was underneath everything else. The music swelled, reaching its emotional peak. Sophia's fingers flew across the keys, pouring everything she'd felt over the past few weeks into the performance. The confusion, the hope, the impossible feelings she had no right to feel. Then, slowly, the piece came back down, gentle now, resolved. The final notes hung in the air like a held breath. Silence. For one terrifying second, Sophia thought she'd failed completely. Then the applause started. Not polite charity event clapping. Real applause. People were standing up. Someone shouted, "Bravo." Sophia looked up, stunned, as the entire ballroom rose to their feet. She found Daniel in the crowd. He was standing too, and the look on his face made her forget how to breathe. Pride, wonder, and something else. Something that made her heart race even faster than the performance had. But Vanessa wasn't clapping. She sat frozen, her face tight with barely contained fury. Sophia stood and gave a small bow, then hurried off the stage. She needed to get out of here, needed to process what had just happened. But as soon as she reached the wings, people surrounded her. A man in an expensive suit thrust a business card at her. "I'm a talent agent. We need to talk about your career." A woman with kind eyes. "I run a record label." That composition was extraordinary. More cards. More faces. More opportunities being offered in rapid succession. Raymond appeared and gently extracted her from the crowd. "Mr. Chen would like to see you. Private room, 3rd floor." Sophia followed him up the service elevator, still shaking. Raymond left her at a door marked Presidential Suite Lounge. She knocked. Daniel opened the door. "He was alone. You did it," he said quietly. "Sophia, you were incredible. I can't believe that just happened. I can." Daniel stepped aside to let her in. "I've known what you were capable of since that first night. The rest of the world just needed to catch up." Sophia walked into the room, her mind still spinning. "All those people, the business cards, the offers. You're about to have choices you've never had before." She turned to face him. "Why did you do this? Why did you put me on that stage?" Daniel moved closer. "Because you deserve to be seen. Really seen. Not as a maid, not as someone invisible. As the artist you are. Your fiancé didn't look happy. Vanessa hasn't been happy since I stopped spending every evening at pointless social events. Since I started spending them listening to you play instead. Daniel, what are we doing? This whole thing, The door burst open. Vanessa stood there, her elegant composure cracked. "So this is where you ran off to?" "I should have known." She looked at Sophia with pure contempt. "You're the cleaning woman. The one he's been wasting his evenings with." "Vanessa, that's enough," Daniel said sharply. "Enough. You embarrass me in front of 500 people by having the help perform at our charity gala, and I'm supposed to be quiet about it?" Vanessa's voice rose. "What is she to you, Daniel? Why does she matter?" Daniel looked at Sophia, then back at Vanessa, and Sophia saw him make a choice in real time. "Because she reminds me I'm human," he said quietly. "Something I forgot a long time ago." Vanessa's face went white. "If you don't fire her tonight and end this ridiculous arrangement, I'll make sure the board knows exactly how you've been spending company time, how you've been neglecting your responsibilities." Daniel's voice turned cold. "Do what you need to do, Vanessa. But I'm done living the life everyone else planned for me." Vanessa stared at him in disbelief. Then she turned and left, slamming the door behind her. The silence that followed felt enormous. Sophia couldn't move, couldn't think. "Daniel, I know what I just did." He ran a hand through his hair. "And honestly, I should have done it weeks ago. Your engagement, your company, everything, means nothing without something real to hold on to." Daniel looked at her. "Sophia, I don't know what happens next. I just know I can't keep pretending anymore." Sophia's phone buzzed. She pulled it out with shaking hands. Text messages from unknown numbers. Emails flooding in. One subject line caught her eye. "Recording contract offer. Review immediately." Her life was changing. Right now. In this moment. Everything she'd lost, everything she'd sacrificed might actually be within reach again. But as she looked at Daniel, she realized something else was happening too. Something scarier and more uncertain than any career opportunity. She was falling for a man whose world was about to explode, and she had no idea if they'd both survive the blast. 3 days after the gala, Sophia stood in Daniel's penthouse for what might be the last time. She wasn't there to clean. She was there to say goodbye. The city looked gray through the floor-to-ceiling windows, or maybe that was just how everything felt now. Daniel sat on the couch, his laptop closed for once. He looked tired, like he hadn't slept in days. He probably hadn't. "The board meeting is tomorrow," he said quietly. "Vanessa's family has been calling in favors. They want me removed as CEO." Sophia's chest tightened. "Because you ended the engagement? Because I chose you over their carefully laid plans?" He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Turns out refusing to marry into one of the most powerful families in the city has consequences. Daniel, I never wanted this. I never meant to ruin your life. You didn't ruin anything. You showed me I was already living in ruins. I just couldn't see it before." He stood up and walked to the window. "My lawyer thinks I can fight this. Keep control of the company, but it's going to be ugly. Public. Every choice I've made will be questioned." Sophia walked over to stand beside him. "What do you want me to do?" "Nothing. This isn't your battle. You stood up for me in front of everyone. Let me stand with you now. Daniel turned to face her. Sophia, you have opportunities now. Real ones. I saw those offers. The recording contract, the performance invitations. You could finally have the career you always deserved. I know. Then take them. Don't tie yourself to my sinking ship. Sophia felt tears burning behind her eyes. Is that what you want? For me to leave? I want you to be free. To not have your name dragged through whatever mess is coming. Daniel's voice cracked slightly. I want you to have everything you've worked for. Even if it means I lose you. Before Sophia could respond, there was a sharp knock at the door. Daniel's assistant, Raymond, entered without waiting for permission. His face was pale. Sir, we have a problem. Vanessa just held a press conference. Daniel's jaw tightened. What did she say? Raymond pulled out his phone and played a video. Vanessa stood behind a podium, perfectly composed, with tears in her eyes that looked almost real. It breaks my heart to speak about this publicly. Vanessa's voice came through the speaker. But I feel I owe it to Daniel Chen's shareholders and employees to share the truth. Over the past month, Daniel has been having an inappropriate relationship with a member of his household staff. He's been neglecting his responsibilities to the company, missing important meetings, making erratic decisions. When I tried to help him, when I tried to save him from this mistake, he ended our engagement. The reporters shouted questions. Vanessa dabbed at her eyes. I loved him. I wanted to build a life together. But he's not the man I thought he was, and the people who trust him with their investments deserve to know that. Raymond stopped the video. The silence in the room was deafening. She's making me look like I destroyed your life, Sophia whispered. Like I manipulated you. None of that is true, and everyone who matters knows it. Daniel, look at this. Raymond's phone was exploding with notifications. It's everywhere. Social media, news sites, business channels. They're calling it the biggest scandal in the corporate world this year. Sophia felt like she couldn't breathe. This was her fault. If she'd never touched that piano, if she'd just stayed invisible like she was supposed to, none of this would be happening. I need to leave, Sophia said suddenly. Not just the penthouse, the city. I got an offer from a producer in Nashville. I can take it, disappear. Let this die down. Sophia, no. Yes. She was crying now, not bothering to hide it. Look what's happening, Daniel. Your company, your reputation, everything you built. I won't let you lose it all because of me. I don't care about any of that if you're not here. You say that now. But in 6 months, a year, when your company is gone and your name is destroyed, you'll care. You'll resent me. Sophia wiped her tears roughly. I heard what Vanessa said at the gala. She's going to use her family's influence to destroy you. The board meeting tomorrow, they're going to vote you out unless what? Sophia took a shaky breath. Unless I'm gone. Unless you can prove she was wrong about me being a distraction. If I disappear, if you throw yourself back into work, maybe you can convince them you had a temporary lapse in judgment, that you're back to normal now. Daniel stared at her. You want me to pretend you meant nothing? I want you to survive this. At what cost? Raymond cleared his throat awkwardly. Sir, there's something else. One of the board members called. Off the record. He said if you can prove Vanessa's accusations are false, if you can show the relationship wasn't inappropriate and didn't affect your work, they might reconsider the vote. How am I supposed to prove that? Daniel asked bitterly. Sophia's mind was racing. The security cameras. The ones in the music room. They record everything, right? Raymond nodded slowly. Every evening session you two had would be on file, so they'd see exactly what happened. Me playing piano. Daniel working. Nothing inappropriate. Just music. Sophia turned to Daniel. Show them the footage. Prove that Vanessa is lying about what really went on. That won't fix everything, Daniel said. People will still talk. They'll still judge. But it'll give you a fighting chance. Raymond was already typing on his phone. I can have the footage compiled by tonight. Every session time-stamped showing exactly what occurred. It's not romantic or scandalous. It's just honest. Daniel looked at Sophia for a long moment. And what about you? What happens to your career if we do this? If your name stays connected to mine during this mess? I don't know, Sophia admitted. But I do know I can't build something real on top of a lie. If I run away now, I'll always wonder what could have been, for both of us. The next morning, Sophia sat in her small apartment watching the news. She couldn't attend the board meeting. This was Daniel's fight, but she could watch from a distance, holding her breath. Her phone rang. It was one of the producers who'd offered her a contract. Sophia, have you seen the news? This scandal with Daniel Chen. If you're involved with him, we might need to reconsider our offer. Our label can't afford that kind of publicity right now. Sophia's heart sank. I understand. I'm sorry. You're incredibly talented. But timing is everything in this business. She hung up and stared at her phone. One by one, messages came in. Opportunities withdrawing. Doors closing. The price of standing her ground was steeper than she'd imagined. But she didn't regret it. Hours passed. Sophia tried to distract herself by practicing on the old keyboard in her apartment. It felt like playing a toy after Daniel's grand piano. Everything felt smaller now, dimmer. Her phone rang again. This time it was Raymond. He did it, Raymond said, and she could hear the smile in his voice. The board saw the footage. They saw how hard he was working those evenings, how professional everything was. 3 board members who were going to vote against him changed their minds. So he keeps the company? By a narrow margin. And there's more. One of the board members owns a concert hall. He was so impressed by your performance at the gala, and so disgusted by Vanessa's lies that he wants to book you for a solo show. Paid performance, professional venue, the whole thing. Sophia couldn't speak, couldn't process what she was hearing. Sophia, are you there? I'm here. The producer called earlier. Said they were pulling their offer because of the scandal. Then they're idiots. Real talent doesn't disappear because of gossip. Raymond paused. Daniel wants to see you. Tonight. He says he has something important to tell you. After Raymond hung up, Sophia sat in her apartment as the sun set outside her window. Her hands were shaking. Everything felt uncertain, fragile, like the whole world could shift again at any moment. But for the first time since her mother died, Sophia felt like she was living her life instead of just surviving it. She looked at the clock. 6:30. She had time to get ready, to figure out what to wear, to prepare for whatever Daniel wanted to say. But part of her already knew. Part of her had known since that first night when she sat at his piano and poured her heart into the keys. Some things were worth fighting for. Some people were worth the risk, and sometimes the scariest thing you could do was believe you deserved something beautiful. Sophia grabbed her jacket and headed for the door. Whatever happened next, she was ready to face it. Together. Sophia arrived at the penthouse just after 7. Her heart pounded as she rode the elevator up, watching the floor numbers climb. When the doors opened, Daniel was waiting. He looked different. Still tired, but lighter somehow, like a weight had been lifted off his shoulders. Thank you for coming, he said. Raymond said you had something important to tell me. Daniel gestured toward the music room. Walk with me? They went to the room where everything had started. The piano sat there, silent and waiting. The evening city lights filtered through the windows, painting everything in shades of gold and shadow. I've been thinking a lot over the past few days, Daniel began, about what my father told me when I was young. That music was a waste, that feelings were a weakness, that success meant building something bigger than yourself, even if you lost yourself in the process. He turned to face her. I built exactly what he wanted. An empire, a reputation, a life that looked perfect from the outside. But I was empty inside, just going through motions, making money, making deals, never actually feeling anything. Daniel, let me finish. He smiled slightly. That night when I came home and heard you playing, something cracked open inside me. Something I'd locked away for so long I'd forgotten it existed. And over these past weeks, listening to you play, talking with you, I remembered what it felt like to be human, to care about something more than the next business deal. Sophia's eyes were already filling with tears. The board meeting today, fighting for the company, I realized something. I wasn't fighting to keep my father's legacy. I was fighting for the right to choose my own path, to build something that actually matters to me. What are you saying? Daniel took a deep breath. I'm stepping down as CEO. Sophia's jaw dropped. What? But you won. You kept the company. I kept control, but I don't want it anymore. He laughed and it sounded free. I've been sitting in meetings all my life, making decisions about hotels and real estate and profit margins. And I realized today that I don't care about any of it. Not really. Then what do you care about? Music, art, creating something beautiful instead of just profitable. He moved closer to her. You. I care about you, Sophia. More than I've cared about anything in a very long time. Sophia couldn't breathe. Daniel, you can't just walk away from everything because of me. That's not fair to you. I'm not walking away because of you. I'm walking towards something because of you. There's a difference. He pulled out a folder from the desk. Remember I told you my mother was a pianist? She had a dream. She wanted to open a music school for kids who couldn't afford lessons. Kids like you were. My father called it a waste of money and shut down the idea after she died. He handed Sophia the folder. Inside were architectural plans, legal documents, budgets. I'm using my shares in the company to fund it. A music foundation. Free lessons for students who have talent but not resources. Performance space. Scholarships to conservatories. Everything my mother wanted to build. Sophia stared at the papers, tears streaming down her face now. This is beautiful. But what about you? What will you do? I don't know yet. And honestly, that's the most exciting thing I've said in years. Daniel smiled. Maybe I'll learn to play piano again. Maybe I'll help run the foundation. Maybe I'll figure out who I am when I'm not trying to be who everyone else wants me to be. This is crazy, Sophia whispered. You're giving up everything? No. I'm giving up nothing and gaining everything that matters. He reached out and gently wiped a tear from her cheek. Sophia, I'm not asking you to save me or complete me or any of that movie nonsense. I'm just asking if I can be part of your life while we both figure out who we're supposed to become. Sophia looked at him, really looked at him, and saw the truth in his eyes. This wasn't a reckless decision made in the heat of the moment. This was a man who'd been sleepwalking through life and had finally woken up. I'm terrified, she admitted. Me too. I don't know if my music career will survive the scandal. Half my offers disappeared today. Then we'll build new opportunities together. Sophia laughed through her tears. You really are crazy, you know that? Maybe. But I'd rather be crazy and alive than sensible and dead inside. She looked down at the folder again, at her mother's dream brought to life through this unexpected partnership. Then she looked back at Daniel. Okay, she said softly. Okay? Okay, let's be terrified together. Let's build something beautiful. Let's figure out who we are, she smiled. But I have one condition. Name it. Play something with me. Right now. On that piano? Daniel hesitated. I haven't played in over 20 years. I'll be terrible. I don't care. If we're doing this, if we're really starting over, we start here. Together. They sat at the piano bench side by side. Sophia positioned Daniel's hands on the keys, correcting his posture like her mother used to do with students. Okay, she said. Follow my lead. Just feel it. Sophia began playing a simple melody. Daniel joined in, hesitant at first, hitting wrong notes, his rhythm off. But slowly he found the pattern. His fingers remembered something his mind had forgotten. They played together, Sophia's experienced hands guiding the melody, while Daniel's unpracticed ones stumbled along beside her. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't polished. But it was real. Two people creating something together, flaws and all. When they finished, Daniel was smiling wider than Sophia had ever seen. That was awful, he said. Completely terrible, Sophia agreed. Can we do it again? They played for hours that night. Daniel relearning basic pieces while Sophia encouraged him. Sometimes they'd stop and just talk about his mother, about her mother, about dreams deferred and second chances. Around midnight, Sophia's phone buzzed. An email from the board member Raymond had mentioned. The subject line read, "Concert booking confirmed." She opened it and gasped. "What is it?" Daniel asked. "He wants me to perform at Lincoln Hall, 3 months from now. A full solo concert." She kept reading, hardly believing the words. "And he wants the proceeds to go to your mother's foundation. To launch it," Daniel read over her shoulder. "That's a 1,200-seat venue. I know. Can you fill it?" Sophia thought about everything that had happened. The scandal, the publicity, the offers that had fallen through, but also the people who'd stood and applauded at the gala, the strangers who'd reached out with encouragement, the second chances appearing in unexpected places. "I don't know," she said honestly, "but I want to try." "Then we'll make it happen." Daniel took her hand. Together. 3 months later, Sophia stood backstage at Lincoln Hall, peeking through the curtain at the packed auditorium. Every seat was filled. People stood along the walls. The local news had cameras set up. Daniel stood beside her in a simple dark suit. Not the CEO anymore. Just a man supporting someone he loved. "Nervous?" he asked. "Completely terrified." "Good. Means it matters." He squeezed her hand. Your mother would be so proud. Sophia thought about her mother, about sacrifices and second chances, about how life had a way of bringing you full circle if you were brave enough to keep moving forward. The stage manager gave her the signal. Sophia walked onto the stage, and the applause washed over her like a wave. She sat at the piano, looked out at the sea of faces, and found Daniel in the front row. He smiled at her, and in that smile she saw everything they'd survived and everything they were building. She placed her hands on the keys and began to play. The first piece was the one she'd played that very first night in Daniel's music room, the one about lost dreams and quiet resilience. But as the notes filled the concert hall, Sophia realized the piece had changed. It wasn't just about loss anymore. It was about finding your way home even when home wasn't a place. Sometimes it was a person. Sometimes it was a second chance. Sometimes it was the courage to believe you deserved beautiful things. The music soared through the hall, carrying with it every emotion Sophia had lived through. The pain and the hope, the fear and the love, the endings and the beginnings. And in the front row, Daniel Chen listened with tears streaming down his face, finally understanding what his mother had tried to teach him all those years ago. That music wasn't an escape from life. It was a reminder of what made life worth living. When the final note faded and the applause erupted, Sophia stood and bowed. She looked at Daniel, and in that moment they both knew this was just the beginning. Their real story was only just starting to unfold.